Rise and shine, it's the Ravens Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
What is going on, Ravens flock? Welcome to another edition of the Ravens Squad Show. Joined as always with Kevin Oestreicher and Ravens legend Kadri Ismail. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We are live here on YouTube and appreciate everyone who's listening wherever you get your podcasts. Training camp is in full swing. Very exciting times. You just had our first open stadium practice, so lots and lots of Ravens fans came in and got a chance to see this new 2025 team, most of them for the first time. In this episode, we'll be talking about what is going on with training camp. We'll be touching on some new signings. You know, we touched on it a little bit on Thursday, but it became official just before over the weekend. We'll also be talking about what we expect to see, who we want to see perform during the preseason, as the first preseason matchup is upcoming this Thursday. So very exciting times, again, for Ravens fans throughout. But before we get started, we want to touch on what has been talked about in training camp very recently, and that is penalties. A lot of penalties being talked about every so often, overshadowed by the overall positive performance from this team. But penalties are something that can be of a nuisance to some, especially the great teams. We've seen it time and time again with the Ravens. Q, you've been at most of these practices, so I'll let you go last. I want you to be the guy to either drop us down to earth or shoot us up to reality. I'll start with Kevin. Kevin, what are your thoughts about the penalties that have been talked about throughout camp? You got a chance to see it a little bit during the first open stadium practice, the only stadium practice this offseason, this preseason, I should say. What are your feelings about it? Are you feeling positive, feeling negative? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, penalties are always going to have that negative feeling, and I think that with what we've seen from the Ravens or heard about the Ravens so far, you know, it hasn't been necessarily wonderful, and it is funny. I feel like I just talked about this. I was over on the Purple Rain podcast with Sutton, Def, and also Cordell was on there, who has been out there at Ravens training camp as well, and we were chopping it up. I see a lot of people who were in that chat in this one, so appreciate everybody for being here and making us a little part of your evening here on the Ravens Squad Show. But I think when you talk about penalties, and I talked about this over there, I talked about it on this morning's episode of Locked On Ravens, you can kind of assess it in multiple different ways. The Ravens last year were bad at the penalties. They were bad at it. I mean, they were second in the league in terms of the most penalties, penalty yards. I also believe they were second most, just behind the Jets. And it just came at the most inopportune times. Like, they would be driving and it'd just be a drive-ending penalty when they really had momentum, and that would sometimes change the outcome of games. You know, the Ravens in the playoffs had some penalties, some which were not, but we're not going to dive into that. You know, the Ravens, it just feels like they get in their own way. And penalties are a key part in that. It's not a talent issue. The Ravens have the most talent in the league, in my opinion. Jaire put them over Philly, to me at least. I know it's still close, but I give the edge to the Ravens in the roster department. You know, I think, to me, the coaching staff that John Harbaugh has assembled is really good. You know, great mix of young up-and-coming coaches as well as veterans. It really is good for them. But in terms of penalties, it is just, you're in your own way. And we heard it at training camp, and Q, I'm sure you're going to get into it, where I believe it was during Thursday's practice. I had Nikhil Mehta on for Friday's Locked On Ravens, and that was a day where, you know, Ronnie Stanley spiked his helmet. Lamar Jackson got frustrated with a ball that bounced off, I believe, Malik Cunningham's hand. So, you know, the frustration, it is there. Todd Monken has talked about the frustration, and he said, you know, he's the king of overreacting and all this, and or overthinking. I think it was overthinking and all this stuff. So, you know, you have to get it down. And what Nikhil told me, and Q, I'm curious to hear if you feel the same way, is that it really isn't one guy. You know, it's not like one guy you can single out as like, oh, it's been all Daniel Falele in terms of, it's like a mix of these guys committing penalties. We saw at the stadium practice, the first play, I think, of 11 on 11s was a Roger Rosengarten false start. So I'm glad it's happening now and not in games that matter. Hopefully they're able to just get all of it out of their system right now, get to the regular season, and it'll be better. They also, I want to make a quick note, hired a former NFL referee. I talked about this on this morning's show. I dove into detail on it, but they hired a former NFL referee to help them with penalties. The Bills did that last season, and it wasn't a huge jump that they took from 2023 to 2024, but any jump is a good jump. And I think that'll help the Ravens too. So Yeah, definitely not a great feeling. You never want to hear about penalties, but hopefully the Ravens continue to work on it, continue to get better. And I honestly think, joint practices in the preseason, that's going to be the real test to see where they are with that.
Interestingly enough, when you talk about the practice for Thursday, there were no fans, there were no uh, outside quote unquote distractions. It was just a typical practice that you would probably have during a regular season. And yeah, Roger Rosengarten jumped off sides, and it was just a benign jump off sides. You saw him get frustrated and kind of, dang it. Then next play, here comes Ronnie Stanley. He jumps off sides. And then you see him jogging, or not jogging, but walking back. And we thought he was going to jog the field like LaJohntay Wester did a few practice series ago. But what wound up happening was at the end of practice, they had the entire O-line line up and they had them running separately rather than having them run the lap. So it wasn't just one guy running a lap. It was because I have to run. Well, my mistake affects the entire squad, and that mistake, I think, was shown by Coach Warhop saying, all right, everybody on the line, we're about to do this. That being said, it's about the mindset of your mentality as a team. Yeah, you want to hold one another accountable. Yeah, you want to be disciplined when it comes to knowing your plays, knowing your assignments. But also, I think penalties, it's a mindset. It's I'm that good. I am situationally locked in. I don't have to overly do it or feel like there's some unnecessary pressure on me. I just go out there and I play the way I know I'm capable of playing. Easier said than done, no question about it. But the really good teams, they put pressure on other teams. All of the over the decades, all of the franchise that had sustained multiple Super Bowl championships, they were the ones that were dictating to the other team, and the other team was the one jumping off sides or looking like they weren't prepared for the moment. That is something that, yes, comes down to coaching, and yes, it has to do everything with John Harbaugh, and if it is him hiring an ex-NFL officiating official to look at practices and kind of make sure everybody's on the same page, then so be it.
Yeah. Actually, could I have a quick follow-up question? I've seen it in the chat. Speaking of the offensive line, how has Daniel Falele looked so far?
There were times where he looked good. There were other times where he was bending over, sucking wind. So that they went through this intense, humid period of heat and practice and all that, and he was having a go of it. But then there were other times where he was out there and, my God, he looked like a road grader. There were other times where, them padded practices, defense got the best of him. So I think it's been a progressing for a guy who has started. You would want to see it be more than where it is at. At the same time, man, when he flashes, you know why he's a starter. The word should be consistency, and that's something that needs to be continually looked at when it comes to Daniel Falele's game.
That's a good point. And what about Voorhees and Ben Cleveland? That's been a topic of discussion for a couple of weeks now. Harbaugh has gone on record as saying that Voorhees is 100% in the lead right now. Are you seeing the same struggles with Voorhees that you're seeing with Falele? Are they both dealing with different things? Or is Voorhees looking like the guy that Harbaugh expects us to see him as?
I think Voorhees is looking like the guy that everybody is expecting to see because his focus is there, his drive and want to is there. Again, we're going to see an awful lot when it comes to the preseason games, and it's going to be a heck of a lot cleaner. Till when we have the joint practice, I'm going to be out there. We're going to see what it looks like to go up against another team. You kind of get a little bit stale when you're going up against your guys all the time, but we're going to see. And I think we're going to see he's going to be ready. I think, he's learned an awful lot. He learned a lot from a carry. He learned a lot as far as waiting and sitting and saying, okay, they as a unit really truly care about one another. It's not some selfishness. So I think that really matters when it comes to the cohesive unit of the offensive line. And I think he's going to be ready for it. That's my kind of bold prediction as far as, John is saying, yep, he looks the part. I think he seals it with his preseason game and this joint practice.
Nice. Is there anyone, Kevin, that you saw during the practice at M&T Bank that you think, okay, well, this guy's looking as good as we thought he did? Or maybe somebody you saw during camp on Saturday where you're like, this guy isn't doing as great as I thought he was going to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the viral clip that's going around right now is the throw from Lamar to Keith Kirkwood. And that was the play where Jaire still had good coverage. It was a perfect pass from Lamar. And on that clip, Daniel Falele is getting just absolutely blown back into Lamar Jackson. And look, I want to say this first of all, and Q, I know you watching him out of camp every day. Travis Jones is a strong dude. Like he is.
He's a mountain of a man.
Yeah, tough guy to block. So look, I'm not using that as an excuse for Falele, but like Travis Jones, and that's where you come into like the iron sharpens iron thing, where like Daniel Falele, while there are other great defensive linemen in the league, right? Travis Jones is not like the top of the top of the top there. Daniel Falele is getting a crash course in how he has to block against these bigger, stronger guys on the interior. So that I know that there was another play as well. There was a stun. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get to Mike Green. And again, I'm trying to say his name, at least once a show for Q, right? I'm trying to get it in rare.
Mike Green.
There were plays like that where the offensive line, those were more so against, I think Green was in there against the second or third stringer. So I'm not necessarily overreacting or underreacting to that, although Mike Green did look good on that. I just think for me, it's going to be a matter of the joint practices in preseason, like truly seeing, when the pressure is on, when these guys are going up against guys that aren't in Q. I know that, did you do joint practices, Q? I can't remember if we've talked about it before. Like, I didn't know if they were a thing. I didn't know if they were a thing.
That was like you don't know it was a thing. That was like standard operating procedure to do a joint practice for a week. You talking about, we do a joint practice. Oh, you just did a joint practice for a day. Oh, you did it 2 days. Man, we had it doggone the entire week. We would go up against, for us, it was the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, you talk about joint practice. That jazz was hard. It was long. We had 2 days. Now they got this, oh my God, we got to practice. It's hard. We need off days. We have no off days. Like, come on. We marched up to the field, and we marched back to our dorm rooms uphill too. And it was 100% humidity with gnats and biting flies.
Jeez.
Man.
Horse flies flying around, just dive bombing on your arm. It's crazy.
Do you get upset when you see these players these days, huffing and puffing when you had to do 2 a days, morning and afternoon sessions? I remember those back in the day.
Yeah, like it wasn't like, oh gosh, we don't want to have all these preseason games because the owners are greedy. And we had 5 preseason games, 4 preseason games. You're traveling abroad to the different. I went to Germany, I went to Japan.
Oh man,
went to England, and we went everywhere. Like preseason games wasn't sitting there like, oh yeah, we can just chill. Everybody played the preseason games. There was no sitting out. It was 6 weeks of camp. We went out there like men, wetted it off. Woo! It was no joke. Yeah, I think the guys, and it's rightly so, it should be easier. The game is a different game now. You don't have to prepare in such a way like you did before. I'm kind of jealous because you're in the rarefied air of camp and going away to somewhere. Man, you ain't go nowhere. You went right over there to Owings doggone Mills, chilling at the doggone practice at your beautiful, posh, gorgeous facility called the Castle. Like, what? We went up to doggone Westminster and sitting there and yeah, wasn't fun. Wasn't fun at all.
Good times, Westminster, man. I know I enjoy the camp being at Owings Mills, but that Westminster camp session, I kind of missed that. Maybe we get one of those back one of these days. Harbaugh didn't really care for it, but I get it. I kind of liked it. When we come back, we'll talk about some free agent transactions that occur. We got a player, we lost a player. We'll touch on it here next, here on the Raven Squad Show. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with the friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I play golf sparingly, and I am very terrible at it, but I love playing golf with my friends, and that's pretty much what it's all about. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is number 5hourenergy.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNFLGolf to receive 20% off your first order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription offers. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavor 5-Hour Energy shot today. Okay, guys, we are back here with Raven Squad Show. Again, we are available twice a week today, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And starting this week, we will have a post-game show after every Ravens game, including the preseason that is upcoming this Thursday. So definitely make sure you tune in for that post-game show. We are here talking training camp. Training camp is doing a big thing for us. But don't forget that last episode, we talked about the potential signing of Brent Urban. We were thinking, how could this happen? There's too many defensive linemen already. Brent Urban signs fan favorite back in Baltimore. Q, that means that any player who is a free agent has a chance to be a Baltimore Raven, including Brent Urban. Maybe some other guys are currently looking for trades. Q, what are your thoughts about Brent Urban being brought back to Baltimore to be a Raven?
Two things. One, the fact that he came back and 97 jersey was taken. He took 58, which was his homeboy, his jersey number. And so little shout out to Michael Pierce. That was cool. But I think the second thing is it's the depth that is the ongoing thing for the Baltimore Ravens. They're always going to be looking at their roster. No stone unturned. And I think part of what they're looking for with their depth is, an ability to have a veteran like a Brent Urban who isn't going to be costing you a heck of a lot as far as the salary cap is concerned. And he's also going to provide some much needed leadership along the line. I know there's a lot of veterans, but there's also some young players too. And so I think there's some good that you notice when you got a guy the likes of Brent Urban. I can see where they can cut him right before the season. So now they would hide him and then they would just bring him back. And therefore it would avoid having his contract guaranteed just in case they do have to make some other moves. But I'm sure for him, he doesn't mind. He knows the drill. He's been through it before. And to provide this level of depth and comfort, I think is a good thing for both parties.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And, we talked about it last week, like you said, where it's like, where does he fit in? Do they keep 6 defensive linemen? Do they use him as a practice squad guy? I'm sure there's a handshake agreement coming here, at least for Brent Urban, as he's been good about helping with that. But the leadership that he brings, the experience that he has, and he's good at just being a guy that can make like a couple plays a game for you. Like, doesn't have to be the biggest play in the world, but whether it's batting a ball down or generating pressure on the interior, getting a key run stuff, like, it just feels like he's in the right spot at the right time in a lot of different moments. I feel that way about Kyle Van Noy too. Feels like third down, Kyle Van Noy is always in the right spot. Feels like on earlier downs, Brent Urban, when he's on the field, feels like he's in the right spot too. So I think, in my opinion, the Ravens, they get better in adding a guy like Brent Urban. It just adds to the depth. And we know that, it's impossible for an NFL team to finish the season 100% healthy. The guys are going to get injured. You're going to get put on injured reserve. To have Urban there to go to if you need, I think it's a really big luxury for them. And I'm glad that the Ravens and Urban were able to get together for another go at it.
Yes. And also awesome thing is that he got number 58. His brother, Michael Pierce, is technically still playing another season. He's playing through Michael Pierce. That bromance is really awesome to look at. And I think that's a pretty cool thing for him to do, to have that number playing for the Ravens again for at least one more season. Another newsworthy acquisition, well, I guess departure, John Hoyland, who was the other kicker battling it out with Tyler Loop, was released. This says a lot, in my opinion, about what Tyler Loop has shown so far since he was acquiesced by the Baltimore Ravens, and also shows that this guy Tyler Loop has a shot to be pretty special. We saw a little taste of that during the camp at M&T Bank Stadium, 6 for 6, including a 60-yard field goal that had extra leg on it. I mean, that thing hit the net at 60. That pretty much shows us what this guy is capable of. The ceiling is high. Doesn't seem like the floor is as low as many would think coming out, of the collegiate play. Q, what are your thoughts? You've seen him more than anybody. What are your thoughts about, Tyler Loop being the only kicker in the release of Hoyland?
Yeah, I think when you look at them bringing him in, they love the fact that he had this strong potential to do a similar job to what Justin Tucker did, which was to change his style to the straight kick. And you saw how it took a minute. There were some OTA practices where it didn't look pretty. Hoyland, he was trying to figure it out as well, but they both had their struggles. Clearly, being a drafted kicker, you're going to get more of the advantage. Clearly, you still got to put up as far as the game. So it's not like, hey, I've arrived. I am now the kicker, and it's all just easy sailing from here. When you make some game winners, that's when it's going to be easy sailing. When you're in the heat of the moment against the Rams and you're making the kick, that's going to be where it's like, all right, cool, you've earned your stripes. Do it against Pittsburgh, at Pittsburgh. Now we're going to love you even more so. Do it against, your AFC North swirly wind Cleveland Browns stadium. That's when you're going to be like, yo, we're hoisting you up on our shoulders and off we go. Miss no extra points. That's where we're going to be like, yeah, Justin who? Now, that being said, the stadium practice, he embraced the noise. He embraced all of what it had to offer. And that 60-yard kick, ironically, as I'm watching it go through the uprights, and I'm like, man, it just looked comfortable. He didn't look like he was trying to force the kick, but rather just use his technique to make the kick. There's a difference with that. And that tells me that he's grooving with obviously his long snapper as well as his holder. And he's getting into that groove and into that rhythm.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing for Loop is consistency. And for what the Ravens, and, they went through some, bad kicker play from Justin Tucker last season at times, which was unfortunate for them. For Loop, you're hoping that he can be better than what Tucker was during the beginning and middle part of the season. And so you saw the confidence during the stadium practice. Like, that was really awesome. Like, that's something that was huge. Clearly, yes, the leg is there for him. I'm excited about Tyler. And I think that for what he brings to the table, the Ravens, clearly, they want a kicker with a strong leg. Loop has that. There was room to spare on those kicks. And while, inconsistency happens for rookies, right? It's a thing that, rookie growing pains are going to happen. But I think the Ravens truly believe in Tyler Loop. I'm sure that the special team staff, Randy Brown, et cetera, have been working with him to kind of go through different just tinkerings in his game, kind of tweak things as the training camp is going on to get him ready. So I'm not going to overreact to a couple of struggles. You know, to me, I think that the Ravens have their guy. They feel confident in him, and I'm excited to see how he performs this year.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to see it. I just want fans to understand, like you mentioned, it's not easy being a kicker in the National Football League. Certainly not easy being a kicker as a rookie in this league. So, one, to get the vote of confidence from John Harbaugh, who, as we all like to say, is a special teams guy, is huge for this team. It's huge for the franchise. It's huge for everybody involved. And before we move on, I just want to let Ravens fans know we have a special guest joining us today. Didn't want to make it, a big deal, but it is a big deal to me. And it came right at the same time they were talking about kickers, obviously. So that's a huge bonus for us. Let's join and welcome everybody. Come in, put W's in the chat. Let's get a little urban with it. Yeah, for our boy, Mr. Nick Moore. Thanks so much.
Nick Moore.
Ravens long snapper. Pretty great.
Seems like perfect timing for me, huh?
Yeah, you were right on it.
You just knew it, man.
I could sense it coming,
It was strong in the force. Nick, when you're sitting there and obviously you put yourself in a position to get good rhythm with the snap, hold, and obviously the execution of the kick, you got a veteran in Justin Tucker, arguably one of the goats of the goats when it comes to just clutch kicks. And then you transition into Tyler Loop, a youngin'. Like, what goes through your mind, one? And two, what is it that you're telling Loop, or is it you kind of allow Loop to go ahead and coach you to figure out what he likes?
I just want to. I think am I frozen, or can you guys?
Yeah,
see me?
it caught you on a good frame. You're okay.
You're looking really good.
Right.
You do.
Okay.
You got your
as long as your
DQ
audio's
foul.
working, you're good. We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So Q, I want to get to it first. For me, I think it's just about doing my job. I think the easiest way for me to help out the kicker and the punter is to have good snaps, be consistent throughout, all the different types of environments and weather conditions that we're going to play, doing my job to the best of my ability to make their job as easy as possible. And so that they can have the confidence and the trust that, hey, the ball is going to be snapped when it needs to be snapped, where it needs to be snapped, exactly how it's supposed to be snapped. And so that's kind of how my thought process and on how I help them out. I was fortunate enough to play with Justin Tucker for 5 years. And, he's one of the most talented kickers we've ever seen in this game. And I think the biggest thing I got from him, I don't know too much about kicking, but I think the biggest thing I got from him is just consistency. The guy hit a straight ball. He trusted his ball. He always picked out aiming spots. He never gave the uprights away. And he was always able to know if he got good foot-to-ball contact, then he was going to go where he wanted to go. And he would adjust based on wind and all that stuff. But he had a true ball and a straight ball. And that comes with years and years of experience. And Tyler, when we first started working together, I'm just kind of getting to know him, trying to get to see, what he likes, what kind of tempo does he like on our operation, kind of what are his tendencies as far as when he mishits the ball or whatever. And I don't know how to fix all of that stuff. All I can coach him on is like, hey, man, I've seen the guy that everybody claims is the best of all time. And these are the things that worked. Like, hit a good ball, have good foot to ball, make sure your steps are perfect every time. Try to hit the same exact spot on the ball every time. Try to have the same amount of number of steps in depth with your plant foot and all that stuff. And it's like getting that repetition is what I think separates a lot of the guys who come in and they're here for a minute, then they're gone, versus a guy that comes in, plays 13 years, arguably the best kicker ever, breaks all these records. It's just every single time he goes out to kick, he does the same thing every single time. He found something that's super repeatable for him. It's very easy for his body to work because, Q, you played, your body's not always going to be at 100%. And I try to tell people all the time, it's not about how good you are when you're at your best. It's how good are you when you are not at your best, because a lot of the times you're not at 100%. The season's really long for a reason. Harbs talks all the time about the reason that the season is 17 games is because you want to weed out the guys that are the posers, because it takes a lot of discipline, hard work, consistency win over a 18-week NFL season. It's very difficult to do. And same thing with our job. Some weeks you're going to feel good. Some weeks you're going to be tired. Some weeks we're going to have a short week. Some weeks we're going to have a long week. And it's like being able to do something that's repeatable over and over and over again. It's such a monotonous move because it's the same thing every time. And that's kind of what I'm preaching to Tyler. It's like just whatever works for you, be as consistent as you can be and make it as simple as possible so that you can repeat it all the time, no matter the wind, no matter the distance, no matter the situation in the game, no matter the opponent, the surface, the if we're in the Super Bowl, if we're in the preseason game, just make it easy and repeatable.
Do you feel like you're almost like a caddy, to use the golf analogy, and also when you're on the sideline, like for you, I know you're saying you don't know about the kicking element of it all, but I've seen plenty of time with you and some of the contemporaries that came before you where you guys were right there ready to give them that long snap, to give them that opportunity on the sideline before the big kick opportunity had to be made, to kind of go through that routine. And I guess my follow-up question with regards to Tyler, is he comfortable going to you like, man, I felt this way, Nick. What do you think? Is it that type of a relationship when it comes to, the caddy type of mindset?
I think so. Anytime Tyler and I were 9 years apart. I've been around a long time. I've been able to play with some of the best players in our roles, and I've gotten to learn from them. And so I think Tyler has done an excellent job of recognizing that and then trying to use me as best that he can. And the best way that I can help him is from that mental side of it. Like the hardest part in our jobs is having that mental edge to continue to go. And because it's not a matter of when we're going to make a mistake or if we're going to make a mistake. Sorry, it's a matter of when. And being able to make a bad kick, have a bad snap, do that stuff. And then how are you when you bounce back? I think my camera just cut out. I don't know what's on you.
It did. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
But I definitely I'm like that voice of reason because, we got coaches there with Randy Brown that is like a really good kicking instructor. He can teach the kicking aspect of it really well. We got Jordan, who's a former kicker who kicked at Penn State, has kicked a little bit in the NFL, and he knows a lot of the ins and outs of the kicking, the nuances. And here I am. I don't know hardly anything about the kicking other than like a couple things I picked up along the way with your plant foot to ball, things like that. But mine is more of the voice of reason. Like, hey, man, it's all good. Everyone's going to make a mistake, and we need to bounce back. We need to get back on track, figure it out. And we've had our ups and downs in OTAs. I know everybody was talking about he was missing kicks and all this stuff, and it's like, he was able to come back. He's having an unbelievable camp, and he's really taken a step in that maturity. And I think, kudos to him for reaching out to me and Jordan and kind of using us as, hey, we've been around. We've seen a lot. We've played a lot of football. We've played in some big time moments. I've got the biggest kick in the history of the NFL. Like I've been around, like I've been a part of those things, and he is using that to his advantage and trying to take that knowledge and absorb as much as he can because, NFL season, it starts in 5 weeks and you hit the ground running. I mean, there's no easy game. Every single game is, it's a life or death. You got to win them all, and it starts quick and it comes at you fast. And so being able to handle that mentally and using me as a veteran guy who's older, been around. I mean, I'm the fourth oldest guy on the team. I think maybe fifth. I don't know. D-Hop and I are about the same age. So I've been around a long time, and he's been doing a really good job of that, understanding that, and really using me as a resource the best way that I could be a resource for him.
That is insane. I didn't realize you were the same age as Hopkins. That's nuts.
Yeah.
He's a vet now.
Yeah, you're a vet, boy. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I've been in and around. I haven't played nearly as many years as D-Hop and Kyle and some of Josh and some of those older John Jenkins, some of those older guys, but yeah. I've had my fair share of professional environments where from baseball to playing at Georgia to being in and out in the NFL and then now being with the Ravens for 6 years. They know it might not be the exact same as D-Hop and those guys that played 13 years, but it's very similar as far as the mindset side of it.
Oh yeah.
I'm about to say, don't sell yourself short in that regards. I think the fact that you're there, the consistency that you're there, you're a doggone professional. The one of the kicks that you're saying now that ball is in the hall. Well, that highlight tape, you up there with it. So
Yes, sir.
like, miss me with all that other nonsense of trying to act like you ain't there, man. Shoot, if Tyler wants to go ahead and have a long sustained career, well, a wise person takes correction, and a fool doesn't listen to Nick Moore's wisdom. What's up?
I love it. I love it.
I love it.
When you get back, we're going to take a break real quick, Nick. Hopefully, we have you back for the next segment of the show. That'd be great. But we're going to come back, talk a little more with Nick about the Ravens. Maybe some Lamar Jackson questions. I know you love your boy Lamar Jackson. I love Lamar Jackson too. So get your thoughts on that. But we'll touch on that here next here on the Ravens Squad Show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be sent to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you wanted to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry right out of buying. Seats views right in the app before you buy. You can look at it to make sure you know exactly how the action is going to look and where you're going to be when the game starts. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. We are back here with the Ravens Squad Show. Again, we're available twice a week. Mondays at 7:30 p.m., Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Even though we're now one show a week, and then the other show is a post-game show. So the post-game show will be airing about 90 minutes after the final bell whistles, the final whistle blows, I should say, and the game in the preseason first game action. I'm getting my sports mixed up. I'm very excited. It is what it is. We're waiting to get Nick Moore back on the show. He's working on the technical difficulty. You saw that he was frozen a little bit. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. For those listening in, wherever you get your podcast, appreciate you guys so much for listening on there. Make sure you give us a 5-star comment. Helps the show out tremendously as the Ravens flock gets ready for a huge season. While we wait for him to get back on the show, let's talk a little more about Tyler Loop, because I love what he said, Nick Moore said about Tyler Loop's struggles in the beginning. I was of the notion at first that, they were working on some things and maybe his misses may almost have been on purpose just to get his kicking going. But it looks like he was indeed having struggles in the beginning of the OTAs, and then he slowly progressed, and now he's gotten so good, in fact, that the Ravens feel confident to remove John Horland from the equation. Kadri, what are your thoughts about it? How do you feel about what Nick Moore had to say? Are you in that same range of, wow, this looks like Tyler Loop may be indeed something special?
Absolutely. I think the continual evaluation of it all, I'm not going to just put him in that GOAT category like Justin Tucker, because Justin Tucker made some tremendous kicks, the Mile High miracle. Much as you want to talk about Jacoby Jones, you also got to talk about Justin Tucker. You also got to talk about that hellacious, crazy wind. You want to talk about, being kings of the North. Well, the AFC North, you have Lake Erie. You have to go out there to Cleveland and figure that out. Then you got to go to Three Rivers and look at Heinz Field and the way that first, second, third quarter looks. I've seen Justin Tucker make those 50-yard plus right through the uprights, dominate, win, go home, kiss the baby type performances. I've seen it here when it has been drizzling and like it just doesn't look like it's going to be that awesome of a day. And then all of a sudden, here comes number 9 going out there kicking it. And it's like, yeah, buddy, we got him. You don't. What's up? I think that is where Tyler Loop has a long way to go. Yes, we are going to sing his praises in some of it, but the majority of it is that, yeah, Nick and company and Jordan Stout there both are going to be his consiglieres and giving him some understanding. He's I'd be curious if Nick gets a chance to get back on, because from a golf aspect, I see that they have like a GoPro on his helmet.
Yeah.
I think it was a TrackMan, which looks like. Does it mean that they, after he kicks and all that, do they go back and look at it, and now all of a sudden, you see it like they have it on the PGA Tour, where it tracks the kick and you can see the trajectory and what it looks like? I mean, I think that would be something cool to know if, in fact, they are using technology in that regards to help them kind of straighten out his kick, if you will, as far as technique. And yeah, I think overall, bigger picture, when you look at it, John Harbaugh and company felt like, man, Hoyland, he's doing well. He's doing all his things. They didn't think it was anything negative, but they had other decisions to make as far as the roster. And they didn't know, by the way, the process, hey, our kicker is doing his thing, therefore we can afford to get fancy with the spices and let Hoyland go and keep Tyler Loop.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing about it, and I see how. Can you hear us, Nick?
Yeah, everything's working. My camera's on. I'm sorry.
No,
It's
you're
good.
fine. As long as the audio's there, that's
Yeah.
the most important part. That's the most
good,
important
yeah.
part. But yeah, Q mentioned the GoPro on Tyler's head. Can you talk a little bit about that and like what's going on with that? Because I think a lot of people are curious about it.
Yeah, so we've used the GoPro in the past. Jordan Stout used it his first 2 years. He actually got it put back on his helmet the other day, and he's going to start using it. It's just like for a kicker, you get that you can kind of see where his eyes are at, and for what he's trying to work on, like I was mentioning earlier, was his plant foot and his foot to ball. And so when you're using a GoPro and he's like looking down at the ball, you can really see that distance of his plant foot, whether it's deep as in the heel is past the ball, or if it's shallow when the toe is towards the ball. And you can also see the width of his plant foot in comparison to where the ball is on the spot. And then you can really get a close-up view of the foot to ball and what his foot's doing when it's actually hitting the ball. And we get tons of different camera angles, and the GoPro is just an extra device that gives us a little bit more in-depth picture of what we're trying to get with Tyler. And it's just that consistent plant and that consistent foot to ball. And I think the GoPros, they're utilizing it really well. And Jordan does the same thing he's looking at his drop, what the ball is actually doing from his vantage point on the way down, where it's matching up with his foot on contact. Those things, you don't get a great pick. You're kind of on a zoomed out camera. If you're watching film, or even like we have handheld guys, you can't get the perfect image. So the GoPro just adds a different layer. It's like replay assist. They got all these different camera angles, and the GoPro is just another version of that, giving us a little bit more personalized look at the individuals wearing it. And I know, Q, you were talking about the TrackMan, and we've actually been utilizing that a bunch. We got it back in we actually used it early on when I first got here back in 2020. And then Sam and Tuck, they were a little bit more old school, and they were more field guys. They didn't really care too much about the numbers side of it. But Jordan's always been a big believer in the numbers, and so is Tyler. You're getting like real accurate information on exactly how far the ball's traveling, what the apex is, what like the distance for instance with Tyler. It's like you look at the trajectory of the flight, you look at where if it goes in or not, you can look at the maximum distance it would have been good from. You can look at like the spin rate on the ball as it's going end over end. You can look at all sorts of different metrics. And I think, again, those are just tools that he can use to match up with what he's feeling and what's actually happening real time. And it's kind of a way to adjust. And like I've had this conversation a good bit with Jordan. It's like, I think it's great for what we're using it for in practice, but it's how do you utilize that information and be able to make real-time adjustments, because knowing we're not going to have access to that when we need it on Sunday. So you're kind of just like hitting a ball. Okay, this is what I felt like. I felt like maybe I hit on the side of the ball, or I got perfect contact. Let me see what the numbers are showing. And it's like matching up the feeling of perfection with the results of perfection on the TrekMan. And it's like marrying those two things together to give you that extra confidence, knowing, hey, if I get this same exact feel when I make contact with the ball, I know this is what I'm capable of doing. And it's just trying to, again, rebuild that and have that consistent foot to ball and that consistent work through the ball that allows them, is going to hopefully allow them to be successful on Sundays.
Perfect. I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You've been in the league since 2019, you've been a Ravens since 2020. Another training camp, you're going towards it. You're dealing with it. How is it? How do you feel now? I think this is your 5th, 6th year in training camp.
7th overall, 6th with the Ravens. Yeah.
Now you're the oldest guy in the special teams room now, right? In terms of experience, yeah.
Not only age, but also
experience.
Yeah.
How is it for you? How are you dealing with it?
This camp has been honestly really good. I think it doesn't quite have the feel of traditional training camp. The way that they've structured the schedule for us, we're practicing later in the day. Veteran guys are basically done when practice is over. We do special teams meeting in the afternoon. It's a very similar vibe to the regular season. The only difference is like the frequency of the days. Obviously, you're only getting one day off every 6 or so days. So the workload is higher. But honestly, I really like the way that we're doing it. We've made a lot of changes since I've been with the Ravens. We've done a whole bunch of different types of training camps. We've had my first 2 years, we practiced first thing in the morning. You get done at 11 or 11:30, and then you basically meet till the sun goes down, and then you go home, go to sleep, wake up, do it again. This year and the last 2 years, we've kind of done the same thing where we wake up earlier than normal, but we get active early. We work out first thing in the morning. We do team meeting. We do position meetings. We do walkthrough. Then we break for lunch, and then you go out to practice at 1:15, 1:30. Your you've been up and at 'em for several hours. You've been active. You've got the mental preparation. You've also got the actual ACT, which is what we call like a walkthrough. You've got that kind of preparation, the physical walkthrough preparation to know what's coming in practice. And then it's kind of building those stages. You talk about it, you walk through it, you do it live. And it just helps build that up, because whereas before we used to do it live, then talk about it, and then walk through it. And it was more like correctional type stuff versus now it's like install, then do the walkthrough, install, and then let's put it into action live in the game. And I think it's been a great training camp. I think a lot of guys are really enjoying the schedule. I know the veteran guys that get to go home, when practice is over around 3:45 or 4, they're loving it because they get the afternoons off, and it's been really enjoyable. And I think Harbs has worked with our sports scientist Sam Rosengarten, along with our strength and conditioning with Scott Elliott and our training staff with Adrian Dixon, and they've all kind of formulated this over the last several years to give us the best chance to be at our peak when the season hits. Because we've had issues in the past of starting a little bit slower. So our goal is we want to start fast and we want to finish even faster down the stretch. And so far, I'm loving the camp. I think it's been great.
When you look at last year, obviously the sting of walking off the field in Buffalo and all that entailed, but then the offseason comes around. Ronnie Stanley gets it going by re-signing. And then, the dominoes seem to fall into play as far as this team being the deepest team. Technically, your side of it with Tyler being a rookie is really the quote unquote unknown link. I won't say weakest link, but the unknown factor. You got a Zach Orr in his second year from a defensive standpoint. You bring in a defensive secondary coach and Chuck Pagano, and the legend of his experiences as a head coach, as a coach who has coached some of the greatest to ever do it. What is the sense in the locker room as far as all of that energy, the trying to put the negativity of last year behind, but also kind of almost use it enough as fuel, yet at the same time, the hopeful expectation of like, this can be another special year, but hopefully this time ending up in San Fran. Talk about that balance.
I think over the last several years, we felt like we've been the best team in the league. We haven't played well, when it mattered the most. And those things stick with you. And I had this conversation, with Lamar, and it's frustrating because we know how good we are. And like you look at all of our losses last year, all 6 of them, we kind of lost, like we lost the game. I'm not taking away any credit from the other teams. They're obviously, it's NFL. They're all great players. Everybody gets paid. But I feel like we made so many crucial mistakes, whether it was missed field goals, turnovers, things of that nature, that really cost us. And those are things that we can control. And so this year, I feel that the sense of urgency and the intentionality that we've had, that's kind of been Harbs' thing this year, is like we want to be intentional about every aspect of football, starting with pre-snap operation to ball handling to, running your routes exactly where they need to be, to getting your steps if you're the quarterback, to, doing whatever you got to do at DB and linebacker. We've been so intentional and so urgent. It's honestly been so much fun to watch. Like the guys are like, a lot of times you get into training camp and Q, you can attest to, like, it's a grind. Like it is a grind. It is hard. It's meant to be that way because it's similar to the season. You're trying to weed out the posers, and we have none. Like I just like, we're all in it together. Everyone knows that it's tough, but no, you don't hear guys aren't complaining. They're not bickering. They're not fighting. Like, dude gets beat on a route. Hey man, what'd you do? What'd you see? Why'd you do that? How can I be better? What would have made it better? What would have made you, put me in a better position? We talk about every single play. We review all the penalties, all the pre-snap stuff, and everybody is an open line of communication. And the competition is at what I would consider the highest level I've ever seen it, with the Ravens. We're taking, and like, I'm sure you guys, Q, I'm sure you saw it, like defense get interception. The whole entire defense is jumping around, partying.
You heard that.
Like they're going crazy. They're running to the other fields. Like everybody's having fun. Everybody's working their tails off. And it's just the excitement. Like everybody knows that we have a special group. Like we have top to bottom. We're special all around. Like you said, Tyler's probably the most unknown character that's coming into battle with us. But that guy, I mean, what he did yesterday, you guys know how difficult it is to kick in our stadium. Like people don't make 60-yard kicks. And that was only his third time kicking at the stadium.
Wow.
So, it wasn't like, and we had some wind on the field. Like, it was good. Like as far as weather goes, that's probably the best weather game we're going to have in that stadium or day. But it's still, you got to go out there. You got to do it. Jerry Sandusky comes out, pre-game, pre-practice, and he's like on the mic right next to Tyler. Everybody, when Tyler Luke comes out for a field goal, I want everyone to show him what it's going to be like to play in the stadium, and everybody's screaming and like we go out for field goal. I thought, some of the people would be loud or whatever, but it would be, it wasn't full, so it wouldn't be. We go out there, dude. I can't hear anything. I'm like screaming at the guys because everyone is just going bananas. And for him to show up in that environment when he knows everyone is watching him because of, and I told him early on, like, you're probably coming into the most difficult spot any kicker has ever come into in this league. Yeah. You're backing up one of the greatest of all time, and you're coming onto a team that has Super Bowl aspirations and basically expectations at this point. Yeah. And so you're coming into a difficult spot. And for him to go out like that, show up yesterday, go 9 for 9, make from 60, make all of his kicks in our situational type stuff. Like, that's not easy to do. And Harbs and has put us in a position to where we're running those situations exactly like we would in a game. Like, those are real to us. And I think, personally on my end, I feel like they're a little bit harder because when I'm looking through my legs, I can see Coach Harbaugh's feet right there next to the kicker. I'm like, man, if I make any kind of mistake, he's going to be in my ear chirping. And so I tell him all the time, like, I love it when he stands there because it gives me more stress and anxiety than in the game, even though I know he's still watching in the game. But like, it's just a different feel when like he's right behind you and he's like hyper analyzing it. And so you got to always be at your best. And we as a unit, like the whole team, everyone is just so locked in and focused, man. The urgency is real. The intention is real. and the expectations are. Our plan is to reach the expectations that everybody has for us.
Last question for me.
We got to head to a break, Q. We got to head to a break. We'll come to it after. We'll come to it after.
Oh, gotcha. Awesome.
Yep.
Let's go ahead. Let's pay the bills.
Let's pay the bills. We'll be back here on Raven Squad Show. Back here at Raven Squad Show again. Twice a week, we're going to have a post-game show after the preseason game that Nick will be a part of. And, of course, appreciate everybody for tuning in so far and everybody listening in wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Kaji, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, we know we had the wolf pack and all that entailed legendarily, but what are we calling you, Jordan, and now Tyler? Like, are y'all
the nickname? What's the
like?
nickname?
Are y'all the loops, Tyler and the loops? Like, what do we got going on creativity wise to get the bonding of you when it comes down to making these awesome kicks under high pressure situations?
I think that's something that we have to earn. I think the guys ahead of us, they earned the wolf pack, and I was fortunate to be somewhat a part of it. Probably the last remnants of the original wolf pack. I was able to work with all three of them, and then work with Sam and Justin. I think what they had was something special, and I think the three of us we want to get to that point where we're able to produce at the level or higher that they were able to produce at, and then we'll let the people decide what they want to call us. If they want to call us Looping the Boys, and that's what it is. But I think right now, our main focus is just doing the best that we can do and being consistent like the guys ahead before us, and trying to live up to the Ravens special teams expectations and the legacy that we've set. The precedent is there, and it's our job to live up to it. And if we're fortunate enough to perform at that level and get a sweet nickname like the Wolfpack or something, then, that'll be pretty cool. But I think we'll leave that up for the fans.
Do you like the fact that it seems like the fan base for Tyler is whenever he makes a kick going loop, there it is? Are you in on that?
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that something yesterday. That's actually pretty cool. And fans are unbelievably creative. One way or the other, whether it's good or bad. And I think if we earn the right to get a name, they will come up with something really cool for us, and that'll be special. A special thing to share with Tyler and Jordan, but we got to get there. We're following in some heavy footsteps, and it's our job to perform and continue the legacy that was placed for us.
Yeah, I caught some heat last week for a nickname that I gave to Jaire and Marlon. And
I knew this was coming.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't no, because Nick is not going to come on the show again if you say it. Don't do it. Do not say it.
I have to. I took the J from Jaire and the LO from Marlo, and I made
Nick
him
muted right now, Nick.
I made him J-Lo. All right, and then someone commented and said they're Jenny from the Flock, and I thought, you know what, this is what we have to roll with now.
No.
So everybody hates it. So the tomatoes are coming back.
There you go. Right. Tomato the hell out of this man. Dang on, Jenny from the block. What are we doing?
All right. Okay, fine. But I do have a serious question. Joint practices tomorrow. You got the Colts coming in.
Mm-hmm.
What's kind of the vibe? Because we heard Pat talking to the media, and he was talking about how it's like rare to not find fights sometimes at practices because the energy is so high. It's a new team coming in. You've been practicing against your own guys, and now you have an opportunity to get better against another team. You've gone through your fair share of joint practices. We learned earlier Q went through his fair share of joint practices when he was playing as well. What's kind of the difference when you talk about the vibes of just a practice with you guys, and then a team coming in, or you going somewhere else and now going up against those guys?
I think anytime you get to go up against another opponent, there's so much energy, there's so much excitement. It's like the first time that we're going to get to do it this year, and like a lot of the starters now, they're not playing in the preseason, so like their first outside of tomorrow, and then the joint practice we have against the Commanders, like their first action that they're going to see against the opposite colored jersey is going to be, when we go to Buffalo in September. And anytime you get up in the joint practices, man, to me, those are so much harder than games. Like, because you got one field, you got ones on ones. The other field, you got twos on twos. It's nonstop action all day. The whole time it's just, shots being fired everywhere. And it is just, everyone wants to show out, and there's not quite as the repercussions that you get in a regular game. You might get flagged, but it's like, hey, it's practice. I was working on this, whatever. And guys get frustrated because you're going up against each other nonstop. Whereas in a game, it's like it might be 3 and out. You might play 3 plays, and you might not see the defense again for 30 minutes. Whereas you go 3 and out, it's like, all right, well, we're going to move on to the next thing, and we're going to go again. And it's just constant battle. And there's, the fans are right there. Everyone's excited. It's the first time going up against another team. Like, it without fail, Q, you can tell me, without fail, there is always a fight. Like, it's like
always.
And the reason I went away from 2 days, where we used to do 2 days in a row, was because most of the fights were the second day, because guys would get frustrated. They go back, watch the tape. They might get dogged in the meeting, and they're like, that ain't going to happen. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to show them. I'm going to do my thing. And, guys get frustrated all the time, and that's kind of part of the game. It's just another element. It's hot. Everyone's in training camp. Like, we're all kind of in the same boat. But when you get to go up against another team, it's just I told the guys today, like when we were talking special teams in the practice, I was like, yo, look, tomorrow's going to be a bloodbath, dude. One way or the other, it's going to be a bloodbath. Like, you better strap it on. Yeah. I don't know what you got to do tonight, but when you show up to work tomorrow, you better be ready to rock and roll, because when we hit that field, those boys are coming and we're coming at them. And it is a fist fight for however 2 hours and 45 minutes, however long we're going to be out there. And they're fun. They're tough. It's just part of ball. And I think it's great to get a real life look at what it's going to be like, so that rookies aren't walking into, Buffalo for the first time, actually getting like real look. Because a lot of the preseason stuff is very vanilla. Nobody's showing their new stuff. When it comes to special teams, it's very plain. They don't rush on punt. Nobody wants to hurt the punter or whatever. It's all about seeing if guys can hold up, they can cover, they can block downfield. It's like learning what your players can do, versus when you get to the season, it is on. Like, bullets are flying everywhere. They're pulling. They're no more vanilla. It's like as deep as they can make it. And this is like our first real taste of that. And so I'm excited for some of these young guys, because we're going to be young on special teams, and it's going to be a great test to where they're at, and for them to realize, hey, like this is hard, and it's these guys are really good, but it's not what I thought it was. It's not as hard as everyone was. They kind of get comfortable instead of walking into that first game like unknown of how it's going to be.
Yeah,
well said.
awesome.
Well said.
Yep, that is awesome. Well, Nick, I have taken up enough of your time. We've all taken up enough of your time. You've been an amazing guest. Hopefully, this is not the last time we have you on the show. I appreciate you so much for joining us here in Raven Squad. Yeah, that's awesome. Everybody give it up for Nick Moore in the comments.
I'll get the camera fixed so everybody can see my kids' toys in the background.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. We'll get it. Trust me.
I promise. I will be back. I had a lot of fun. I always love chopping it up with Kevin and Q. So, Sam, I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you for joining us. Yeah, that's awesome.
Man, if you could come back on, we would absolutely love it, because I think it's cool just to get that perspective of what you bring and your knowledge, and it's the nuance of the wisdom that enriches our show. So we much respect to you for coming on, and obviously, man, go out there, do what you got to do, but more importantly, stay as safe as you can stay when you guys going up against that joint practice against the Colts, and I'll see you out there.
Love it.
Thank you, guys. We'll be ready, man. We'll be ready.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nick.
Awesome.
That is Nick Moore that joined us. Awesome guest as always. Have him on all the time, and appreciate him for joining us. Hopefully we have him on again. Again, thank you so much for everybody that joined us. Appreciate you guys in the comments. Funny as always. Kadri, Kevin, thank you so much for joining me here on a great episode of Raven Squad Show. We will be back for the post-game show following hopefully a Ravens win. I know it's preseason, but we want to start off with a win anyway. That'll be great. Awesome. Again, everybody who listens in on the podcast waves, appreciate you guys for listening to us there as well. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you're watching us here on YouTube. That's going to do us for us here at the Ravens Squad Show, and we will see you here on Thursday.